Good morning. It is my pleasure to present the origin of altruism by means of natural selection. Darwin's theory of natural selection explained the fission of populations into diverse species. However, he did not address the fusion of parent and offspring into temporary family units or the fusion of family units into societies. Here I propose a maternal risk management model as the hypothesis for the origin, inheritance, and expression of the altruistic gene complex. The foundation of the model is its definition of reproductive success, which is replacement fitness. Across species, replacement fitness for each breeding female is a constant. That is, the survival of two sexually mature offspring, one breeding daughter to replace the female, and at least one outbreeding son to replace her mate. The critical question for females breeding in risky environments is this: how many, how large, and how diverse must offspring be for a breeding female to meet or exceed replacement fitness? The maternal risk management model addresses this question with 4 predictions as follows. Utopian or weak-selected environments with a low probability of offspring mortality by predation or starvation. They don't die, they're not eaten. For uniparous or oligoparous breeders that produce and abandon a small number of precocial offspring after spawn or birth. Environments with a high probability of offspring mortality by predation select for multiparous breeders that produce and abandon large numbers of offspring, most of which will become a predator's meal. Environments with a high probability of offspring mortality by starvation during patchy or seasonal gaps in food or water select for uniparous or oligoparous breeders that produce, protect, and feed a few well-provisioned offspring in temporary family units until those offspring are experienced enough or large enough to survive on their own. Environments with high offspring mortality by a combination of predation and seasonal periods of starvation favor the fusion of family units into hierarchical societies of diverse members. This is key. Individual members with abundant resources share increments of food and shelter during seasonal scarcity to keep those at the margins alive. Why? Because individuals at the margins protect those in the middle of the group from predators or invaders. Survival is never equal. However, in convergent risk environments, each member survives longer within the society than each member would outside of the society. According to the model, social vertebrates originated in the scarcity selection environment as temporary family units. When predation entered into became an environmental risk as well as seasonal gaps in food, family units fused into societies of diverse family members. In contrast, social invertebrates, particularly the insects, termites, ants, bees, and wasps, social bees and wasps, originated in the predation selection environment and then fused into large family units of diverse members to offset the addition of predation as well as seasonal periods of food scarcity. I tested the model by plotting 90 species and two factors from each species, and those factors were the relative size of offspring at dispersal, and again relative to the size of its parent, as one variable, and the second opposing variable was the offspring number per breeding event. I then moved the axes to kind of separate the cluster of species mortality by predation to the number of offspring. So the model also makes some basic fundamental assumptions. The origin of altruism is the maternal instinct to produce, protect, and provision. This instinct is as old as life itself, 3.9 billion years old. All offspring inherit their mother's altruistic gene complex to produce, protect, and provision. However, gene possession does not mean gene expression. Typically, males are incapable of producing offspring. They have the gene for it, but that gene has been, or that gene complex for production has been suppressed, and instead they produce sperm, which are too small for cell division and cell differentiation, so they cannot produce offspring themselves. Instead, they donate, which is essential, a second copy of the genome, and they diversify offspring. Interestingly, extended maternal care occurs in most species that are in scarcity selected or convergent selected environments, which are typically terrestrial. In contrast, species with maternal abandonment adaptations are largely marine, where the environment is much less variable and food is slightly, if not greatly, more predictable. Maternal risk management is the first model to propose an explanation for the evolution of societies as a maternal investment adaptation that increases the probability of offspring survival and thus increases the probability that a female will meet or exceed replacement fitness. It's a lot to swallow. When an opportunity presents itself, protecting or provisioning strangers will be expressed if the altruistic behavior increases the probability that females, breeding females, will meet or exceed replacement fitness. In mammals and some birds, helpless infantile behavior of one species can trigger the expression of the altruistic gene complex, which in turn triggers the maternal instinct to protect the helpless, sick, or injured individuals, again, even if they're of a different species. There are benefits to altruistic interactions. They provide opportunities to learn or practice effective self-care and parental care behaviors. When aiding the helpless, mammals, reptiles, and fish are rewarded by feel-good emotions triggered by a chemical cocktail that includes oxytocin, the social bonding neurotransmitters. We're even finding the genes for oxytocin in fruit flies, ants, frogs, and all the way up through to mammals in the animal group. In summary, the maternal risk management model provides a theoretical framework for hypotheses, predictions, and assumptions for the origin, inheritance, and expression of a universal altruistic gene complex by which breeding females meet or exceed replacement fitness. Thank you for listening, staying awake, I hope. I would really like to thank the organizers of the conference. Lots of work, and particularly the organizers of this very charming session. I am sorry to miss it. I'm in the Galapagos Islands. And with that, I leave you.